Hello, ghouls and goblins, and welcome to another exciting episode of Haunt Talk. In today's episode, we are going to be reviewing Fright Farm in Smithfield, PA. One we review pretty much every year because we love it and because it opens early.
Yay!
See, every place should just open like the first weekend of September. So we're like, eh.
Yeah.
But yeah, we always go to this one. If you don't know, it's a Hayride, haunted house, trail, combination of all the things. It is a haunted adventure.
Yes.
Not the same kind of haunted adventure like our YouTube series, Haunted Adventure, where we go and investigate real paranormal things. Also on the YouTube channel, watch that now. Also, make sure you like and subscribe. Also, buy our merch. We have cool stuff on there. We have mugs, we have t-shirts, and other crap that you can put our Haunt Talk logo on. It's cool. And also subscribe to us on Patreon, please. It's expensive, haunt season is, and it helps us. And we also will send you little gifts in October, so do that now. Now it is time to do the review, which as always means it's time to refer to the Book of the Dead! Book of the Dead! Book of the Dead! Book of the Dead! Alright, and as always, we must start with sets and props.
Yes.
This is something that Fright Farm has excelled in dramatically in the last few years.
Yes.
It is, and I actually said this to the one guy that works there, that it amazes me that, like, you see, like, these, like, huge YouTubers and these things go and do, like, these walkthroughs of places, like Haunt Overload, and those kind of things, you know, that there's not one, like, a big one that I've seen of this place, because it is easily as just grand as though we go to a lot of cool haunted houses, but not much has the spectacle of something like this. There's not many that have it because, like, not many people have much properties they do. I mean, they have a literal mansion they build just for the haunted house, like an actual mansion, not like a facade, like a mansion, and that's just one part of the experience. Insane.
It is.
It
really
crazy.
is.
Like, every time I go, it amazes me. And this year, I had heard that they had added a few things. I was impressed.
Yes.
It was more than I thought. So yeah, I guess we'll kind of start with the Hayride. Now, the Hayride, I would say, was the piece that had the least amount. Now, the Hayride was kind of a rocky start. We don't want to harp on it too much, but the ride was a little bit, like, jerky and stuff like that, and it seemed like maybe some of the actors, which, like, well, we'll talk more on actors, but we'll leave that alone, actually. But the sets are really cool on the Hayride. Like I said, not much had changed, because you go through, like, a town. When you first start, like, they're like some kind of coke ovens. I assume it's probably maybe something local there, the coke ovens, because we have cherry coke ovens close to us.
Yeah, I'm assuming those were actual coke ovens. But they have, like, these cool coke ovens with giant skeletons on them that actually talk to you. And they kind of, like, do, like, this little, like... It was funny because they almost sounded like Beavis and Butthead. Like, the one actually did sound like Beavis. Like, he had that, like, you know, hey, kind of voice. Yeah. Which I thought was kind of funny. But they, like, do, like, this little banter and talking about the people on the hay wagon and stuff like that.
Yeah. And
that was really cool. That... because the year before we got to see that, but like we just kind of drove past it.
Yeah, maybe, you know,
stop.
maybe we weren't supposed to drive past it. I don't know, but
yeah.
The village. Oh, there's like a cemetery that's after that, and then there's the village, and the village is cool. They have like a church that looks like it's burning, which the effect for that looked kind of messed up because like they use like curtains with wind and like a back glow of fire, and like the curtains were kind of like just outside the windows, so it kind of just looked like there were sheets hanging on the church. But still a really impressive building. One thing that was new, one of the barns they locked us in, there was like this big cool talking pumpkin that like told you a story.
Yeah.
And there was a cool like scare after that. That was neat. I didn't notice much else new on it. There's like a toxic waste section you go through. There's like a train track, which looks like it might be themed to like that River Styx legend.
There were these cool pumpkin like
oh yes,
puppets.
Those were new. Those were cool.
Those
At least
were
I think
really
they were
neat.
new.
Yeah, they looked like they were handmade and stuff. They were just really cool. They were just hanging there and kind of like reaching at you and stuff like that. That was really neat.
Yeah, that was cool. And then there's another barn you go into before the mansion, and there's like some little bit of pyrotechnics, and they have like a giant vortex tunnel the whole tractor drives through, which is always fun. And then you drive up to the mansion, and that's where like the show really, really begins. Because the Hayride's cool. Don't get me wrong, I like the Hayride, but yeah, the rest of it is really where it's at. So like you get off and you walk through like the entry of the mansion, but you're not in the mansion for long at this point.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. You go through like a walkway, and then kind of go through what looks maybe like a little bit like a sewer, or like some kind of like, I don't really know what it is, but there's like rats and stuff in there.
Yeah, like a basement or something.
Right. And then you go into the cemetery, which the cemetery is still probably the most impressive cemetery scene I've seen in any haunt, even any walkthrough haunts I've seen.
Yeah.
I've seen ones that come close, but like it feels like a real cemetery. I mean, they have lights up that make it literally looks like lightning. And the soundtrack this year as well, because really starting here, the cemetery, like the soundtrack, the ambient effects and stuff were like really, really good this year. Like the music they had playing, just the sound effects really sold everything.
Yes. Yeah, it really got you into the environment that you were in. It really did.
Because one problem, funny enough, I didn't mention it in the 100 Acre Manor review we did before this, was there were sections where there just wasn't music, so it was just like this weird quietness, and it felt a little awkward. But this really filled out those like areas, I guess. Like it was just really had a feel to it. They did have a new addition to the cemetery that was really cool. They've always had, well, at least the last few years, they've had like a crypt that you kind of like go slightly underground and come out. When now you loop around and walk on top of that, and they have a glass floor where you can see below.
Yeah, that was really cool.
And in there I guess the thing they used to do was like honor a celebrity death.
Yeah.
But they stopped doing it. But they had that again this year, and it had it was Pee Wee Herman specifically masked. Yeah. But for Paul Rubens, of course. So that was cool.
Yeah, that was really sweet. The cemetery itself, like he said, I've never seen a cemetery this elaborate. Yeah. It's just
you go in
so pretty.
Yeah, you go in and out of mausoleums. I mean, there's water fountains there. It's all just lit perfectly. And then you kind of meander around a bit more of the cemetery. There's like kind of like a swamp section. There's like a water mill and all of that. One of the biggest additions that I really liked is so there's always been this, like, I just call it the guest house. I don't know if that's what it's supposed to be, but it's like a small house outside the mansion. They've somehow like expanded on the side of that now, where it's just like this whole, I really wish I could have like filmed out a picture of it because it's so cool. It's like this whole like village street, I guess. Yeah. Like think like I'm trying to think of like the right way to describe it, like San Francisco or something, like those like tall, like the tall buildings that like you might go and like trick or treat. Like think of like the beginning of like Full House or something like that kind of thing. Yeah, those kind of buildings. Yeah. But it's on both sides of you, and the whole theme there seemed to be like it was like Halloween night maybe or something like that. And there was like ghosts and stuff, like maybe it was like deranged trick-or-treaters or something. Yeah. If you turn the corner and you see it, you're just like, wow, this is a big, impressive scene. Like, it's huge. And then you go through a bit more. They have those really cool trees, of course. That's neat. And then you get to the mansion, and like the overlay this year, I don't know if they usually do an overlay, but this one is very prominent if they usually do, which was infested. Yes. So it was like you have the horrible haunted mansion, but now it's also infested with horrible, disgusting bugs.
Yay! That was really neat because like they didn't like super push it on you, but it was there. Like when you walk in, obviously like the whole like wall, like when you walk in, is just covered in bugs and stuff. And like the guy that opens the door for you, he's in like an exterminator outfit and stuff like that. But they also have like tubing going through. Like when you get your house bombed, they always put like tubes and pipes and stuff like that into the house to put that the bug spray or whatever. So the house had these like tubes just kind of running through it. Every so often you would just look and you would see like this little neon tube floating around and stuff like that.
They were like throbbing green lights. They were like, so that was cool. And it kind of went throughout the majority of the place. And there was just some really gross stuff in there at that. Like at one point I know there was a person that was overtaken by like a giant beehive. That was gross.
Yeah, the bees. Ugh.
Yeah, but just throughout the whole thing, well, for the majority of it, just gross, just bugs, and it just made it even a little more like nasty and freaky. And like they always have like not much else in the house that I remember like off the top of my head was new. I'm sure there was new things. Oh no, there was a one cool part, and I guess they used to do this, but I don't remember ever doing it. There's a part where you kind of like walk on like a little outside balcony.
Yeah.
Which is cool because you can like, when you go out, you kind of see everything. And something else that I kind of want to mention that's surprising, how it's structured, all this outside stuff, you can't really see it until you're there. Mm-hmm. Like the site pathing and stuff is done really well because like that village I talked about, you can't see that until you turn the corner. Mm-hmm. The house, you can't see that till you turn the corner, and so on and so forth. You can't really, for the most part, see what you're about to get into until you're right there.
Yeah.
So that part's really cool. But they always have like one big room that they always gut and like completely retheme. Mm-hmm. And this year was themed to, I don't know if I want to say Yetis, but it was like a winter, like...
I think it was more focused on wolves.
Yeah.
But there was, like, some Yetis in there as well, but it was, like, a winter scene, and, like, yeah, when you first walk in, there's, like, a wolf, like, eating somebody, and, like, you hear, like, howling in the distance, and growling and stuff.
Really cool. They had, like, a really cold in there.
It was cold. Cool. Yeah, it was really cold. The facade, like, there were like these really cool white trees all over the place. The whole place was just like all these trees on the walls, and it was really elaborate. It was really awesome,
really cool. And one of the other cool things about this room, and particularly this year, is because it's really weird. It's like at the top of the mansion. Actually, they used to have slides where you would slide down, I remember, from many years ago. But you start on a high level, so when you kind of like turn the corner, you can see like the whole scene down beneath you. Then you walk like down into the scene. And just this year, because of the fact they had all these trees, and then like up here they had what looked like a cabin window. I think there might have been someone in it. And then again, to bring back the sound design this area is really cool. Just the sound of like howling wind mixed with wolf howls.
Yeah, it was really
cool. It really like the sound system they had, it really did sound like it sounded like snow was blowing around you. It was really neat. And then there's the only disappointment I have at all really with the theming is, so after you leave that, it used to go into black hallways, and they have those, like, I don't know what the actual name for them is, but the panels on the floor, they go boop, 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 when you step on them.
I don't know what they're called.
Yeah, like little moving panels on the floor to kind of mess you up, like you see at a fun house. That was still themed to, like, the cabin, the winter theme. And I was super happy because the only thing I ever complained about is this weird doesn't really fit anything ever, like just black walls with neon paint on it. And I'm like, oh, they got rid of it. It's all actually themed out. And then you walk 2 hallways, and then it just throws you into a black room with some neon strings with, like, floors that are, like, slanted like this. And then it ends, and I'm like, that's the only thing I complain is I so badly want them to get rid of the random black light, the black light paint thing, and just make that an elaborate scene. Because it's, like, one of the last rooms. I think it is the last room of the mansion. And it's always just kind of, like, the weakest room to end it.
Yeah, like they could have like kept that with the whole winter theme.
Right, they could have had like one final big scare.
Because like the janky floors kind of make sense because it's winter and it's kind of like you're on ice. So the floor is like slippery, so that makes sense.
I'd almost like to see them do that as, I don't know how they do it with throughput, but almost like a little show scene to like end it, like one final scare for the mansion.
Yeah.
And I say that because another new addition, and it's not very long, but so years ago they used to have a maze after you did the mansion, and that was the last thing. But for the last couple of years, that's just it. After you did the mansion, you walk this path and it takes you back to where you started. But now it's Slaughter Hollow. And they do have a little show scene that begins it. They block you in this room, and there's like a scare and stuff that happens, and some murder. And there's not too much to talk about theme in this, but it is kind of themed. Like, it does look like there's like a cabin, and it's themed to like a barn, which is what you're in. This is more on actors, so we'll talk about that more in a minute. But there is like really strobe lights that really mess you up though in there.
Yeah,
they're like the staggered ones that make you feel like you're about to fall.
Right. Yeah, that was intense. That whole area was really intense. It was a really good addition. I have to say.
And it was a good ending as well, which we have more thoughts on that. But and one other thing I want to mention just before we rate this is they do queue lines perfectly at Fright Farm. Now, the night we went, they were not busy, so when we walked, we got our number and we just got right on. There was really no one there because we got there pretty late too, because we did 100 Acre before this. But it's just, they don't do lines anymore. You just get a number and then you can go. They have like 3 or 4 escape rooms, I think it is. They have a bunch of games you can play. They have a really beautiful gift shop. Really good food too.
Really good food.
We were given some of the pizza like last year, and it was amazing. It was really good pizza, and they have a whole cafe in there now too. That's like in where the gift shop is. So, and bonfires. They had a band playing.
Yeah.
So I just love that, and I wish every haunted house did that. So it's really just a whole event, and it's just a lot of fun. But yeah, for sets and props, we gave them a 10. Like I said, I mean, my complaint was so little just at the end. I mean, it's really nitpicking. Yeah, I just can't believe how beautiful and how much work goes into this place. It is phenomenal.
Right.
Yeah, I think I said this in reviews before. Like, I would like to do like a walkthrough, not like a daytime walkthrough necessarily, although that would be interesting, but like a walkthrough even without actors, where I could just take my time and just look.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure there's a lot of detail I don't see because you don't want people to catch up with you and stuff. But yeah.
So we're moving on to actors. So yeah, we the Hayride we'll start off with. They had really good system of like doing distractions.
Yeah, they were better.
Scare you.
They were definitely better at that this year than I've noticed in previous years.
So they would like have something going on, and then someone would creep up on you. It was really, really good. There weren't very many, though. There were a few scenes on the Hayride that didn't have anybody in them.
Like the town was pretty barren.
Yeah.
There wasn't much going on there. But again, I feel like that's like the least important place for them to put the actors, because they did seem particularly light on actors this night, but it also was very early in the season. But yeah, there wasn't a ton on there, and I do think some people might still be, a little bit new, a little bit in training and stuff. I did really like the pumpkin chainsaw guy that happened after like the pumpkin head talks to you, like there's like a curtain moves back and all of a sudden he's beside it.
Yeah.
That was cool. But yeah, they definitely were like, putting some effort, and I liked like that they seemed to be trying to scare a little bit more than I remember in previous years in our visits, like with the distraction and that.
Yeah.
So that was cool. In the graveyard, that's probably where the least actors were for the walkthrough portion. And they didn't really try and scare them very much, but I was even kind of saying like it didn't bother me too much because it was giving more of like Haunted Mansion vibes or something, where they were just kind of walking around being ethereal, because they're all dressed phenomenally. Like the one girl had this little blah and just kind of walking and just kind of glaring at you, and again, I don't 100% know if that was like on purpose, but it gave a cool vibe, because the cemetery definitely feels more like ethereal and just ghostly and spooky than like high intensity thrills.
Yeah.
And that was something I liked, is it felt like the further you got into the attraction that it did get more intense, specifically with actors.
Yes. There were a few standouts, especially there was a few on the Hayride. There was a scene where a girl runs out of one of the buildings and she's like, please help me, whatever. And a guy comes chasing after her, and he ends up chasing her to a car. And he's basically like beating her to death or whatever. But it was really cool because it was like it was synchronized almost with like the music and the lights that were going on. Well, him beating.
It wasn't music and lights. There was a flamethrower behind him. And every time you would hit it, there was flame that would shoot.
Yeah, and it was just so well synchronized. It was really, really cool. There was also there was a fence maze that was really elaborate, and there was a guy in there that was just
they also used the strobe lights like I was talking about. I didn't mention it. It's not some props, but it was like a long one. Yeah, there's a guy in like, I don't know, like a long cloak.
Yeah, I think he was in like a long robe of some sort. Yeah.
And something about like the way they had these strobe lights going in his cloak was like really freaky, and it was like, watching him move kind of like messed you up.
It was very messy. The whole maze was just like, I literally felt like I was like swaying as I was walking through there, and I know it was flat ground. I mean, it was just gravel. Yeah. It was flat.
Every year this thing messes us up.
Oh my God. I was just like, I can't. I'm like, oh my God. Get me out of here.
We really liked, I think it's like technically the third time you went to the mansion. There was a girl dressed as a garbage bag. That was funny. Yeah. And she was asking us for money. It's funny.
They did have a lot of good hiding spots inside like the mansion and stuff like that, and they would get you multiple times. Like there was a a person that was in the one area that was like kind of like a kitchen-y dining room kind of area.
Yeah, she got us numerous times. Yeah, just popping out of random places, little holes in the walls and stuff. That was cool. Yeah, they were really good. The actors that were there were really good. I think probably the biggest shout out is the people in the slaughter barn, because like they had like these platforms, and again it's like those crazy strobe lights where it's really hard to walk. Like they're jumping between platforms with chainsaws in their hand, and it was freaky. They were doing a really good job. Like I really thought I was gonna get hit and stuff, and it was like freaky. It was really cool. They definitely seemed lighter on actors in previous years. Maybe it's because, of a little bit of expansion. But the ones that were there were really good. The costuming was amazing. And also the place is so beautiful and also really long. We'll talk more about that in value, to the point where, like, it's okay to not have a scare every second. Now, if you have a shorter haunted house, something like, Tool Brothers, which won our Haunt of the Year like last year, for a haunt that's only 10 or 15 minutes, you really need a lot of scares.
Yeah.
But if you're going to go for something like this, because they're like two completely separate things, I'd prefer more scares, don't get me wrong, but it's so beautiful, so elaborate, and so long that having a lull in scares every now and then, long as it doesn't go too long, is kind of welcome at a certain point, because you can just kind of take things in. And it also, sometimes if you go like a minute without a scare, the next scare hits you harder.
Yes.
Because you're like, now your guard's coming down, right? So that's kind of cool as well. But we gave actors an 8.25. Wanted more, but the ones that were there, for the most part, did a really excellent job.
All right, so moving on to scare factor.
Well, actually, before scare factor, let's do our Halloween question. We didn't do it for the last two videos, but we'll do one now. So how this works is we've got these little things with Spirit Halloween. We thought it'd be fun to ask the question and just answer down in the comment. And if you get the answer right, we'll make sure to just, basically congratulate you below. So what question do you have? I actually don't know what it is.
So the question for today is, what is the night before Halloween called in Cincinnati?
All right. And we're not going to... I had no idea about this. We're not going to read the multiple choice, because that makes it too easy, I think, with multiple choice for these, since you'll probably just look it up anyways. But try to do this without looking it up. I actually will look this. I see the answer on the card. I will look this up, because I
want to know why it's called that.
So it was, what is the night before Halloween called in Cincinnati? That's what it was? What was the night before?
What is the night? It is, what is the night before Halloween called in Cincinnati?
And hint, it's not Halloween Eve.
It should be, but
Right. Anyways, yes, back to scare factor.
All right, scare factor. So, like we said before, this haunt, it's like a gradual, like, intensity. Like, it gets more and more intense as you go through. Like we said, the hayride just kind of slowly get you in there, because of course you're not getting much scares on a hayride. It's kind of hard to do. Then you get in the cemetery where things are just kind of getting spooky, and you get a little bit of jumps there and there, and then you get into the house, and then it just ramps up, and it just keeps getting more and more intense.
Yep, the house gets pretty intense, because like the first scene that you really get, like, again, you technically enter the house when you first get there, but we're talking about when you actually go in. You're there for a while now, because the first scene is like, I think, basically like the little, I don't know if it's a living room, like kitchen scene, that lady that you talked about scaring us multiple times.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, and it's always been kind of the case with Fright Farm, but this year so even more when they end with the slaughter barn, which is definitely probably the more, because I mean it's very, very loud. There's chainsaws everywhere, and so if you hate chainsaws, this is going to be a nightmare for you. Technically, you can bypass this though, because they know that some people, it's going to just freak out too much.
Yeah, because I guess they actually did have the slaughterhouse in the middle of the haunted house.
Yeah, well, nothing as big as this, but
No, but people were like freaking out, and they'd have to escort them out of the haunted house, and they would miss half the house because they were so freaked out because of the chainsaws and things like that.
Right, so now it's at the end, so if you absolutely can't stand all these chainsaw people running at you at once, you technically can bypass it, but you should go through it, of course. But yeah, I mean, overall, I mean, it's pretty scary. Like I said, it ramps up. It's very long. So yeah, I think that this one would be, I mean, there's a lot of gore, and if you hate bugs, that's another thing. If you can't stand bugs, it's going to freak you out. So it was kind of like, I know they're fake, but still like,
yeah.
That is definitely a fear of mine. I hate bugs. So I would say that it is decently scary. I mean, they don't touch you or anything like that. So I mean, I think that if you have someone that's younger going with you, they should be okay. But I would say it's borderlining there of what Mike,
Yeah.
It's like on the edge of being like fairly extreme, but towards the end especially. Because they don't hold back at all when it comes to like just being gross. So there's some scenes and stuff that are like, ew. So know that going in.
They did have like some what he called new age scares, which is like the boo pedals and things like that.
Not a ton, but a few.
Just a few scattered without, and then of course your traditional jump scares were there as well. Which is nice to see them kind of integrate the new and the old together.
Yeah.
So overall for scare factor, we did give them an 8.
Yep. Which, pretty decently scary. Yeah. All right. Next brings us to value. So, and it's so hard to rate. So many haunts are doing this now. It like ranges depending on night, but a normal ticket's going to be $25 to $40 depending on the night you go. So like your Sundays, and I think they open on certain Thursdays, are going to be your lower price, where your Friday, Saturdays are going to go up in price. Your VIP is $55 to $70, and now it's getting up there. Like $70 on a Friday night, that's expensive. And also I forgot they have a season pass, which I think is new.
I think so.
It's $150, and it's like, I think, unlimited visits for the season. And since they're open 2 months, like if you're local, probably not a bad, not horrible value there. Because again, you can have a lot of fun there, just going, hanging out, waiting for your turn in line, eating their food and stuff. And it is about 1 hour in length. This is the longest year. It's always long, but with that addition at the very end and stuff, and the couple extra scenes, because some of these scenes are bigger, it did take us longer. So it's 1 hour. I do think that when you're getting up to, because it was 70 with VIP, 40, you are getting up to 40 for normal for like Friday and Saturday nights, which is when most people are going to be able to go. You are kind of getting up there in price, but like also when you think like a lot of haunted houses are 15-20 minutes, you're almost getting like you're getting like multiple houses in one really for this. So the value we think is still pretty good. While it is expensive, I've seen many places charge this price for like a 20-minute house though. Yeah. So I think that it is still fair with what you get. So we did give it a 9.5 for value. Yeah.
So that brings us to overall, which we gave them a 9.
Yep. This place is always impressive, and it's always one for longer reviews too, because there's so much to talk about. There's so much in it. But yeah, I mean, if you've been there, what do you think about it? Let us know. If you haven't been there, did this review make you want to go? It should. It's really great. Yeah, absolutely. You should check it out, and let us know what your experience was like. Make sure you're liking and subscribing. And Kim's favorite part, make sure you're ringing the notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming videos. Thank you very much for watching.
Bye.